At Get Haunted and Get Haunted Midwest, we don't just put on events, we give you an experience. Grab the gear, master the methods, use the tools the professionals use to bridge the gap. From the Estes method to traditional seances, you aren't just watching the investigation, you're part of it.
Repeat peanut butter.
Capture the evidence, hear the voices, experience the history firsthand. Every event is structured so you rotate through the most active spots, learning from the best. The spirits are waiting. Secure your tickets now at extremeticketing.com. Ready to join the hunt? Here's where we'll be. Join Get Haunted and Get Haunted Midwest at these historic locations. Tickets for all events are available now at extremeticketing.com. Don't be left in the dark.
Oh my God, 3 times in a row so far this week.
Yeah, what's up with that?
We're on a roll. We're on a roll.
Your hair looks cool. It's very Viking style.
Is it? Yeah, it's just one of those days, it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, bestie. Here we are. It is Thursday night, 8:00 p.m. Eastern time, and I guess as we are sort of as we become more and more involved in social media, and we've been here for 4 years, and we have a lot of friends that are content creators.
Yeah.
This seemed like a good time maybe to sort of clarify some things, and help out. This is a show to help everyone out, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, you froze for a hot second there, but you appear to be back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're here to help everyone, right? Like this is
the idea,
informative.
right? Because, and I will reinforce that this is not about drama. It's not about calling out. It's about educating people on both sides of the coin, right? Because there are people, there's people watching right now that are planning to put a show out, maybe. There's people watching right now that will one day probably end up on somebody's channel for some stupid reason. And with the amount of time, and I have received a lot of messages or phone calls about, the questions. How do you deal with certain situations? And like it's not a secret, been kind of through the ringer on some stuff. With that came a lot of research, right? Like a lot, and understanding what the lines are. It's very, very complicated, and even this first one, copyright's pretty complicated situation. It's not, but it is, and you'll understand why later. But I don't want to see anybody end up in court, and I don't want to see people, have to end, because you can lose a lot of money based on copyright infringements.
Well, what I do like about this, and I think as this niche community, what we don't realize, as we're putting out posts, as we have, team names, team logos, very original articles written, right? Like all these things, and you don't realize it. And we were having this discussion right before we went live. You're like, we just sort of assume, like, social media came out and it's like, okay, everybody just go on there, but there is a responsibility to a platform like this. And hello, everybody on the side. So what I do like about this, as we, get into anything that we're doing, things that we're creating, to understand truly what belongs to us and what doesn't. And what I do appreciate about this show, this is something that was very important to you, Rob, is that I've always said, if there is a problem, I understand that there are always disagreements, misinterpretations, misunderstandings, some just plain all out don't like each other. But I believe shows they're so much more important when they're productive. And so I won't sit on a show to speak about drama. And it's one reason when you brought this to my attention, I think making sure our friends and people that we do know in the community understand what the responsibility is when you are creating shows or content or your own artwork or your own original writings, what that really means when they're put out there. Just because something's put out there doesn't quite mean the thing you think it does.
No, it doesn't. It's important, and they can also find themselves, being taken advantage of under, these same terms of service and rules and laws. So
terms of service, can I just add, because you said, I'm curious on the side, who's ever read terms of service for Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, or X, it's called now? Who's actually read terms of service?
I would guess 99.9% of the people that haven't. Unfortunately, when you need to read them, you end up reading them, and it's a lot, and it's brutal. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of legal speak in there. Mm-hmm. But if people are confused about what terms of service is, it's exactly what it sounds like. It is you agreeing to terms to use a specific service, and each one of them has it. And they do update it rather frequently. And if you didn't read it, like I didn't in the beginning, you just check that little box, you scroll all the way to the bottom, check, come in. You cannot cry and complain when you violate terms of service and the platform takes action, because quite frankly, they don't want or need to babysit or be part of your legal problem, which can happen pretty quickly with copyright, which is why especially YouTube is so stringent on it. I mean, if you have a show now, right? I mean, and AI is looking at everything. Like, you can't upload a song. Sometimes it catches it before it even publishes it.
I think we have that violation for many of the shows that that we host on Get Haunted, that aren't our shows, but it's constantly music violation, constantly.
Yeah. So, the DMCA is it's a very real thing. It's a serious thing. That's the Digital Millennial Copyright something of America or something like that. Mm-hmm. People's content and work are protected. Now, many cases, like I purchase music, I do pay for them. So, and it's an easy fix. Sometimes you have to go in and just upload the license you purchased. Mm-hmm. Like when I created your
my jingle.
Yeah. Because I think that was getting shut down at first too, and I had to upload the certificate. So you should hang on to that stuff. Hey, Angelina. But that it is looked at, and it is a very serious thing. And while social media used to be the Wild West, there also have been a spate of recent lawsuits against all of them. Bullying and harassment. Kids are dying. Self-inflicted, and it's not okay. So, not only like I love what Australia did. Australia has if you're a kid now, you don't get social media. You don't get Facebook. Mm-hmm. I think 14, 15, I forget what the years were, but I was really impressed by that. There's was it Chick-fil-A doing this now? If you are a family eating there and you can prove you don't have look at your phone the whole damn time, leave your phone in the car, they could be like free chicken nuggets or something.
Oh, well, I'm in.
Yeah.
Easy.
So, with all the crap that went on and with my face being out there as much as it was yours, unfortunately, friends, um, I did start looking into this and studying a long time ago. Um, just 'cause I wanted to know what my rights were, and it's a complicated thing, in some cases, and it just crosses over into so many different things, which is why this topic's so confusing.
Mm.
But, content creators and the people that end up on content creators shows need to understand what they're legally allowed to do either way. And I think that part is the point I'm trying to drive home tonight. Because this feeds into the rest of it. Because you've got, the big things that I've seen on social media, and especially throughout our stuff, is, you've got copyright, you've got privacy, you've got harassment, you've got targeted harassment, you've got a lot of things that we could talk about, and they all kind of are connected and tie into each other.
Mm.
I'll give the platforms a nod here because they do take it seriously. And some people don't like that because they feel like they're not being supported.
Well, and that was one thing, we've talked about this many times. This is where I think when we're sort of like with social media platforms, we're like children left unattended, and so when you get in trouble, it's not fair. But when somebody you want to get in trouble gets in trouble, it's completely worked, the way it's supposed to work. So I think
we throw a fit.
But I think this is where, it is hard to kind of roll back. We've talked about you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
No.
And when social media, you can go back and watch the documentaries that have been made about social media. The reality is, and look, I also can look back in the last 4 years and realize like this whole the social media, arguments and paybacks and like all this stuff, like, I can look back and realize like this whole entitlement of what has happened with social media, is a moment for us all to take pause. And I think, like you said, I know YouTube has been in some major court battles and lost, where they are paying out millions of dollars to people. So
hundreds of millions.
Yeah. So the reality is they do take this serious. And I think that it's time for the reality of what it is we should be responsible for. And I say this with love to all my friends that are content creators, and people who are putting their time and effort, even if you're not doing shows, right? But you're sharing stuff online. This is important to understand what rights you really have and what rights they really have. Right. And everybody has rights. Like everybody does.
And especially if you have zero care for personal effects on people, mental health, financials, whatever. If you don't care about any of that and all you care about is getting your thing out there, you cannot be surprised when people take it the proper route. And some people have been surprised, and I've been asked if I do these things. Jason, so well, I actually talk about it for a moment here in one of the slides. It's yes and no. There's ways you can handle that, but that's not part of that part tonight. But AI does play a role in copyright, especially on derivative copyright infringements. So should I just start?
Absolutely.
Yeah, in true Rob fashion, I made slides because I like slides. There's a lot.
This is a Rob show.
But I hope to get this done in like 35 minutes or so. But copyright being, at least on YouTube, and I know Facebook takes it very, very seriously, and so does Patreon, I believe. And I think Patreon's based in another country. I could be wrong. But US based companies, especially because of the DMCA, have to take copyright very seriously. Again, this is about education, not drama. And yeah, let me throw my little disclaimer. This is not legal advice, just real world practical observations and understanding from my side, designed to help people not get misled. So, in the heat of a lot of stuff, not all ours, I've seen a lot of claims thrown out there. Well, this is fair use, and these people are putting in false copyright claims, and the system's broken, and fuck YouTube, and their photos are public. If they posted them, they're public. They're business owners, so they're fair game. They have a podcast, so it's fair, and I spelled fair wrong. Go ahead.
It's for
Screenshot it. And on and on and on. Right. So in something, this is the fit that you were kind of talking about. And I don't think that these people don't believe what they're saying. They're just so confidently wrong about it that it's almost funny sometimes. So what exactly is a copyright? It's a form of IP law that automatically protects original works, which is pretty much anything that you create, right? From notes written in a notebook, once it's created and fixed, the term is fixed, to music, to art, paintings, software. The minute that's created, you have exclusive rights to reproduce, to distribute, and perform or display your work for the author's life plus 70 years. Okay, belongs to you. Now, that if you give it away, that's one thing, right? That's a totally different story, but we'll get to that. Again, it exists the minute you create it. This right now, this video is copyrighted.
Actually, and I did learn this for my BBK. The moment I started and started using and put out my pieces, it is all copyright, and they do suggest, although it's not an immediate thing, that as long as you have screenshots of dates of when you started, that is all legal. That all can be used in court if somebody were to fight you on that. So, but I think this is important for people, and I'll just speak about those in our niche community, because when you have a team name, when you have a logo, when you put that out, that is sort of your stamp of it's copyright. It's mine. It belongs to me.
Correct. Now, the exceptions, right? And this is where the water gets muddied. Is fair use, right? But that's very, very limited. Fair use, fair use, and there's a whole section on this. Fair use is important because it does allow people their First Amendment rights to criticize and whatnot. Now, here in the U.S., it's a lot more lenient. In some countries, it's not. But fair use is what allows people to critique and comment and transform.
Absolutely.
But it's very, very limited in scope. So again, a photo, a video, thumbnails that you create, live streams, drawings, you name it, it's all there. And even if that shit gets taken down or deleted, you take it down because you don't want people to see it anymore. Just because it's not online doesn't mean it's no longer copyrighted. So keep that in mind as you create things. So basically, if you created it, you own it unless you gave it away. That's the way this works, which is why, you're supposed to ask for permission when you use somebody else's copyrighted works. That's just how it goes. And if they say no, well, you're fucked. If they say yes, then you can use it.
So technically, when we're all sharing memes, if somebody wanted to be a jerk, could they go after everybody that shared that meme?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they sure could. But usually the memes are also copyright infringements by the letter of the law, right?
Right.
So, then people are okay, but what about all of the thumbnails and all this shit I see? So, many, many, many of the thumbnails that we see, especially in certain communities, even though they're not the nicest things, are technically legal under fair use. However, a lot of them are walking on a very thin line. and this is where, earlier I said intent doesn't matter, but this is kind of where intent matters, but it applies later if you end up in court. The real violations are often around privacy or harassment and defamation, not copyright. However, if you do end up in copyright, in the CCB or federal court, battling a copyright lawsuit, these things can then come into play, and then they can become an enforceable copyright complaint. Does that make sense? So you're not getting, free reign to do this. So here's a cool little thumbnail that had AI create. So, and I'll put these up later. So, but basically, if it's used for criticism or review, if it's transformed via text or commentary, and if you only use the necessary part and it adds a new meaning to it, then it's likely fair use. Okay. If there's a paranormal video and a lamp falls over and everybody's freaking out and claiming it's paranormal, somebody watches it and sees a cat walk by and knock the lamp over, and then puts up a debunked video. That's fair use. It is. They're saying, okay, look, here's the cat. Now, if they play 8 hours of that video just to shit talk the person, it's a totally different story. The red flags are if they're just reposting your photo, if they're using it as clickbait. It's happened to me, folks. So there was a video made and then my face added to the thumbnail later. Another big red flag, if it's a private, what the hell was that? Or a paywall type of situation, and they're using your imagery to make money. This is also another layer of complication. Or if they're misusing your logos, then we're looking at some possible copyright infringement. Then when you toss in the non-copyright violations, such as humiliating or attacking, stalking one person, like if you target someone over and over and over again, it becomes a pattern. And now we're getting down into civil and even criminal laws, depending on what state you're in.
But this is what's interesting to me, and I think this is where, so back in the day, right, if you had a show, there are agents, there's producers, managers that you sit down and talk to, right, and they make sure there's the legal people that are there, and so they're helping you navigate this world. And to your point with the Wild Wild West, YouTube, and it's not just YouTube, but social media sort of busted open, and we're all like suddenly these reality stars, and we're doing these things without going through things with a fine-tooth comb. So really, when you look at much of the content out there, if it is not professionally done, the reality is we're just lay people out here, and we have missed probably a lot of things that we really should take into consideration, and we don't.
Correct. Yeah. And it's not what I was saying, Angelina. If you can use video footage under fair use, but if you don't stay within the fair use guidelines, then it can become a copyright infringement. It's just what it is. So no. However, if somebody my point was, if somebody reached out and said, "Hey, I'm going to use this to make a video," and did it, that's one thing, right? And then you've given it away. But if somebody takes your footage, your video footage, and then decides to trash you, for months on end, that is not fair use, and then it can become a copyright issue. I could technically file a copyright infringement and take it to court because that is no longer fair use, and I'll get to the fair use piece. So if it's geared towards educating people or clarifying things, that's transformative, and that's okay. If it's a targeting thing, that's where it starts becoming risky. So again, back to the thumbnails, most don't break copyright, but they do break everything else, right? Then there's a whole nother video or another part of this series I'll do around privacy and whatnot, but this is what I mean when, like this this comment here is technically correct, as but we're not. You just can't miss all the other pieces to it, and this is why. Well, this is why some people have videos taken down. Did I already do this?
No.
Oh, okay. So if they just use your image, I know I'm rather handsome, and my image brings the views. But if they're just using hey Laura, if they're just using your image as a hook or as clickbait, not okay. That's not cool, especially on a monetized platform. Repetitive use across multiple monetized videos with a pattern of profiting off of your identity, also not okay. You guys can look this shit up. Minimal transformation. If it's just throwing it up, like that, exposed, total fraud, the whole nine, not okay. You got to stay within the fair use guidelines. Again, this is where most people get it wrong. And then if it causes reputational damage tied to the monetization, if they're making money while harming your name or business, that can weaken fair use defense. Fair use is a defense in court, and this is the part I don't think most people get. Fair use is not a free pass to go out there and do whatever the fuck you want on YouTube. It is an actual defense in court. It's not a defense for YouTube. It's not a defense for Facebook. It's a defense for a judge to listen to in the court of law. And his opinion is the only, or hers, are the only opinions that matter at the end of the day.
Hold on, Jason, are you saying your picture has been used? I don't know if he's.
Well, I saw his latest photos. He looks rather smooth and baby-like.
He is. They're beautiful pictures. Yes.
Yeah. So in summary, right, copyright protections are a federal thing. They're not a platform thing. You cannot cry to YouTube, Facebook, Patreon, or Reddit, or any of these other platforms when copyright complaints come in against you. They're a federal thing.
Maybe not so much cry, but
you know what I'm saying. You can't complain about YouTube is my point. You can't blame YouTube for it. YouTube and Facebook, typically they step away at that point. They're like, okay, this is now going to be a legal thing, and we don't want any of that smoke. We don't want it. They got enough shit to worry about. So they do serve as a gatekeeper to a degree, and they'll take a look at it. Doesn't mean they'll automatically shut it down. Even if they think it's frivolous, they will not shut it down, because now it becomes a legal matter between two parties, and there's a whole process for that. So let's pause for a minute so I can have a little sippy of soda. Any questions from you, my friend Sarah Jane?
No, I mean, I think, again, this is one of those things where, the shiny penny gets sort of flashed in front of our face and we all run to it and we're super excited about it. But there is always a responsibility to what we put out there, to what we say. Again, this is not saying I have not been guilty of that, or that I have, I know I have, and not to certain degrees. I will never. You're not going to get me to say that, because it's never been to some of the degrees that I have seen out there that have been done. However, I think this is very interesting, because we just assume because you can, you should. And I've always sort of said that, like, just because you can just doesn't mean you should. And, I think social media platforms have sort of become, the judge, jury, and it's weird. It's a weird thing to me that, especially for adults, and when you have children, because we all know children can lie about their birth dates on here. It doesn't, it's not like your computer shuts down. So when you have children that are also on these platforms watching adults act like children, it's just an ugly cycle, right? And so there are better ways to get your points across. There are better ways and better things you can do to be productive to the causes that truly mean something to you. And so I will always champion that, always. I just don't understand the personal attacks for your cause. That has never, to me, that's not how you get that just shouldn't be how you get the
No,
actual.
for me, it's one of the things, like, you lose me at that point, you know, even if you had a very valid complaint, and there's, the specific incident I'm talking about, that, there was a valid complaint. It was the delivery of it, which was
Mhm,
juvenile and stupid. And because I can't get on board with that shit,
mhm,
it ended up creating problems for us, but whatever.
mhm.
All
It's
right.
interesting. It's just interesting that we all don't stop for a minute and realize that being on these platforms, there's a responsibility and laws that go with it. And I just don't think we understand the gravity of that until you're just on here like, woo, just doing whatever. And then all of a sudden somebody goes, wait, I took the time to read. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, no. I took the time to actually speak to a lawyer that understands
Oh,
all
yeah.
of the things, not all the things that we hear on social media, but like people who say, oh, no, here are the actual laws. And again, with YouTube having to pay out hundreds of millions of dollars, Facebook, all these platforms, I'm telling you right now, like this can't last forever. There'll be a new thing, obviously, but this is where, the mess that this created, what social media truly created with, I think, our ability to be more responsible. We just got really
Yeah.
lazy with it, right?
Oh God, yeah. And it's an important topic, especially now, as Jason brought up, with AI, right? And
Mhm,
um, how easy it is now to create, recreate, modify.
mhm,
It's pretty crazy.
mhm,
Uh,
mhm,
and so there's a AI slides or a comment here and here. So, this leads to, there's another component to copyright infringement that's called derivative work infringement.
mm,
So what does that mean? That means someone takes one of your original works, be it a photo, be it a video, anything, and they
mm,
change it into something else. They modify it. Um, and I did literally heard this made it, um, no longer ours or mine. um, this is not true. So, examples of a derivative artwork, it's tracing someone's photo. If you take somebody's photo and trace it and then put it back up there, it's still the same copyright infringement. Um, unless you make it look nothing like the original, it's
mm,
copyright infringement. It doesn't matter what you did to it. If you run it, Jason, if you run it through AI, um, or even hand paint it into, a cartoon, if you turn somebody into a Muppet, you know, and their face is different, but the rest of that picture is the same,
mhm,
it's copyright infringement.
mm, mhm,
Um, no matter how you stylize it, and as long as it's based on the original and it's clear and evident, it is a derivative work. Okay. Um, and it doesn't matter who made it, and it doesn't matter who traced it or who put it through AI and handed it to you. If you're putting it up there, you are responsible for that piece of art
mm,
that you're posting up top. Um, and again, with copyright here, the intent didn't matter. The content being recognizable was the key issue. And I'm just going to use the same example. This was done, right? And it's still out there. I haven't done anything to this guy, but this was the image that this artist took and traced, and they put something out that looked very much like this.
This is what you did, though. This was your example.
This is mine. Yeah, this is mine. Removed the logos, removed the names. Someone else ended up putting our names and logos up there, which once again made us identifiable, which is also another violation, but we'll save that for a different video. Clear as day, same image, right? And if this happens to you, all you gotta do is you run this one, and then you run the traced image through there, through AI, and it'll tell you everything down to the folds in the jacket, the angle of the head, how close we're standing or not. AI will tell you within 99% certainty that this is a derivative piece. That doesn't matter if you put it on a tablet and traced it, with your digital pen. You cannot claim that is your own original artwork, because it isn't. It just isn't. So I did have a video taken down that was using an image just like this, which also had our logos and our I think my address was in there, the whole nine. And there was a whole shitstorm over it, and people screaming from the rooftop that, this was a false copyright claim. No, it really wasn't. And if it was, you probably should have countered it. But they didn't, they took down the videos. This is called derivative artwork. It's not okay. You're not, hey, Clearwater Beach, Florida. God, I'm freezing my nuggets off up here today. So I'd love to be there. So you cannot trace somebody else's image. You cannot take their videos and turn them into cartoons. You cannot take their art and send it off to, the print shop and frame it. You just can't do that. The other thing to understand is the entire image, the entire image, from the composition and the angles to the lighting, is all part of the copyright. It just is. The way you frame it, any filters you use, so on and so forth. Now, one of the arguments, and I said I'd keep this around 35, 40 minutes. One of the arguments was that, they're public figures. There's this misconception that anybody that's on the internet is a public figure. And this is very much untrue. So public figures are celebrities, of the television type for the most part, politicians, major influencers. Then there's limited public figures. You guys can go look all this stuff up. Those are people that are usually kind of tied to specific controversies. Don't know if I fit there or not.
Would that be like a Greta? What's her name?
I would assume so. Yeah, I would assume. But by and large, almost everybody that's watching this right now or is watching it later are private individuals. And just another thing that was thrown out there was that because Rob and Sarah are business owners, they're fair game for any kind of pummeling that we want to throw their way. And this is also untrue. It's not true. So just because you're on social media, just because you have a business that you're promoting or running, and you have Facebook pages and Instagram pages and the whole 9 yards, that just means you have visibility. It does not remove your right to privacy. Does not remove your right to not be harassed. Just because you make posts doesn't make you fair game. That shit doesn't matter. Again, now this all kind of goes tying back to fair use, which once again is a defense in court. So when it comes to businesses, right, if you're criticizing a product or a service that happened, from that business, then boom, you're good. That's okay. If you're discussing a public statement that the business made, right, goes out there and says, well, we don't believe that the earth is round and it's flat. Okay, you guys can discuss the shit out of that, and should probably. And if you're providing fair commentary, in our specific case, none of that shit was a business thing. It really wasn't. They took a very personal thing from on my end and then dragged everybody and their brother into it and tried to destroy a business around it, and Sarah and her life and everything in between. That's not commentary. That's just called being an asshole. So that all crosses the line with personal attacks when you expose identity or private details, and then encouraging harassment or pile-ons, which YouTube and other platforms also take very, very seriously. Those are called targeted harassment campaigns. And if you're worried about losing your channel and your monetization, this is one of the fastest ways to do it.
Yeah, you want to make sure, I think, I will always stand behind this. I do believe everybody has a voice here. And, just because you disagree with a belief, I have no problem, when people bring that to the forefront and they're like, this is why I think this is wrong, or this is why I think they're wrong, and I don't believe that. That's all great. I think, again, when we start to cross into the personal side of things, I guess
where you spend your money has nothing to do with anything, but that was part of a discussion, right? And again, I think this fair use thing becomes a shield or a perceived shield for these people, for some people, and it's just not real. It's just not a real shield. In fact, it's making you more vulnerable.
And you don't want another content creator to get their information from somebody that's misinformed. I mean, we really do. This really is to help everybody across the board. I mean, if you're somebody that's like, I want to join the debunking community, you should take these things very serious. And I would say even more so now with what's going down with YouTube, you might want to really take into consideration, don't emulate what you see out there. Really look at what you are responsible for, because you might be shocked.
Oh, and there were a lot of questions, and here's the one piece I'll add, right? Like I was kind and generous.
With what?
With the way I handled problems. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'll say for now. But in this case, right now, intent and impact matters, especially when it comes to a business. You don't become a public figure just because someone wants content about you. It's not how it works. It's just not how it works. And then, as you said, responsibility comes with visibility. Everybody has a responsibility to themselves, to the platform, to their communities, and to the law. And I don't really care what country you live in. Here's the problem that a lot of people, most of the platforms are US based and fall under DMCA, which means they follow US laws. So it means you sign a terms of service that is based on US law. And if you don't like that, move here or get off the platform. But that's just how it works. And if there's questions about that, when we get to the legal piece, I'll do that. So here's some really great examples. Example number one. This is completely made up. Let's say somebody owns a paranormal event company and promotes it online. A creator makes a video criticizing their event. That's fine. That's okay. But then they start using the owner's personal name repeatedly. They dig into their personal life. They frame them as something criminal or unethical without any proof. And then they justify their actions by saying, but they're a public figure. And that's not commentary, folks. That's called targeting a private individual. And it is not fair use. It just isn't. Example number 2. Someone has a small YouTube channel or Facebook presence in a niche community or niche community. I don't know what the proper way is, but so another creator takes screenshots of their personal posts, repackages them with misleading a narrative, encourages others to pile on. Then they say, well, they're putting themselves out there, and I'm just here to, serve justice. They're public figures now. That they're just visible. It's not the same thing. So as you move forward through this, it gets crazier and crazier. So the business versus personal lines, right? You can criticize a product, you can criticize a service, and you can criticize public statements. What you cannot do is the personal attacks, tie it to the business, identity exposure, creating all kinds of issues. And then these harassment campaigns that we've seen and actually been victims of. You've crossed out the whole public figure discussion and you've turned it into something very, very different when you go on these targeted harassment campaigns, which not only are policy violations for the platforms, they're literally criminal. This is what I'm talking about when I say I've been generous so far. So the fair use argument. Fair use is not a free pass. It's not, well, I gave them credit. I said who they were. It's not, it's on the internet so I can use it. Fair use is a legal defense. And that part is the part that everybody needs to burn into their brain. Legal defense. If you have to claim fair use, you've already fucked up. And that's the truth. You probably already fucked up. That means you don't claim fair use, you argue it in court. And that is judged case by case. Some factors when you're thinking that you're good with fair use. Did you use only what you needed, or did you use the whole thing? Was it a short clip to make a point, or did you use their entire video and mock it the entire time? What's the effect on the market? This is huge when it comes to businesses. Are you hurting the original creator? And then the bigger question is, if someone can watch your version instead of theirs, you're probably not protected. Meaning if they walk away with an opinion and yours is so modified that their market is hurt, it becomes a big problem for you, or it can become a big
Okay, wait. So you're, because I just want to make sure, because there's a couple days in there. So if a content creator took, I'm just, for example's sake, if a content creator took something of ours and modified it so much that it hurts our business.
Let's say, okay, I see where I confused you on this. Let's say we take the inner eye online.
Okay.
And we create a whole thing, someone downloads it, and then they replicate it in some way.
Okay.
Right? They're now taking our work and recreating it, and it's hurting our markets. Now we can't sell. Does that make sense?
Okay. Got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
I
yeah, there was a couple days in there that I couldn't figure out where that belonged. Okay.
I'm sorry. She's learning right along with you.
I am learning right along.
All right. Fair use. Creator, reviews a paranormal investigator EVP session and plays a short audio clip where a response was captured. This person says, it's possible contamination, suggestion bias, all fair things to talk about. Absolutely. Why it's called fair use, right? The purpose is criticism and analysis of the method. The clip is used as evidence to support the critique. It's transformative because it adds maybe an expert opinion and or breakdown. And they only use the necessary portion of that EVP session. So the focus is on the technique, and it's not about trashing the person.
Total sense. Makes total sense.
Not fair use. Creator takes the same investigator's footage, uses their image, their clips, their screenshots in a video or thumbnail with statements like, this person's a fraud, avoid this business at all costs, or pairs they're faced with mocking edits or unrelated negative imagery. So this is not meaningful, nor is it transformative. This stuff should seem like common sense, I would think, but the
But
focus,
what gets the clicks,
correct,
right? This is what happens to us as content creators or anybody on social media. It's all about algo. It's all,
right,
you get
correct,
you get lessons somewhere else saying what you got to put in there is.
correct. So the content's being used for harassment, ridicule,
Mhm,
um, attention. They're not critiquing the technique itself.
mhm,
So the focus shifts from what they were doing to who
mhm,
they are,
mhm,
and that's really where people lose it. It gets lost. So here's what matters: fair use is critical to copyright claim because it's the built-in limit on the content creator's exclusive rights to use someone else's stuff. So even if something's clearly copyrighted, fair use determines whether someone can use it legally use portions of it without permission for purposes like commentary, criticism, education. That's what I was getting at earlier, Angelina. So copyright does give you rights. Fair use defines when those rights apply or don't. Does that make sense?
I
Um,
mean, those two words again, this is not as easy. You
no,
weren't given guidelines by your legal counsel before you signed your contract for the show. It's like it's a lot for lay people to take in and say, wait a second, exactly where, we think we're following some rules or that we're following laws, but then we sort of we just take certain things for granted and we
well,
just kind of
yeah,
start,
and I can see why it's easy to get carried away, and especially when it seems, at least sometimes, that social media people gobble up
Mhm,
the ornery stuff,
mhm,
but at the end of the day, this can land you in some serious
mhm.
financial straits. So, some more things to keep in mind as you create content. Fair use doesn't protect harmful use of personal information. Doesn't. Does not justify exposing or weaponizing someone's personal details. Fair use is about using copyrighted work. So if you go out there and you're trying to hurt someone, that is not fair use. So stop saying it. It's not transformative commentary. So stop saying it. Um, it doesn't serve the public interest. That's also another thing we heard. Oh, this is the for the public. No, it really wasn't. It was for you. Um, Harassment or targeted abuse eventually become platform policy violations, which then makes everything else a hell of a lot easier once there's a precedent set. Um, and if you don't think platforms look at the number of times things occur, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
Well, I believe where and what happens once you contact the platform, whoever it is, Facebook or YouTube, especially YouTube, once they see the human sees an issue and then they get the legal involved,
Oh
it's
yeah,
no longer you all you did was say, because you were denied a few times. And then when you start to show, like, look, at some point, right? That's when legal steps in. And once legal steps in, nobody, there
they
is
don't,
nobody that's legal. Legal now is like,
yeah, they
here's
don't
what we see.
they don't want smoke. That'll be in the other video, right? And that some of that falls under privacy, right?
Mhm,
And it's not even what is being done; it's the condition it creates.
mhm.
If you're creating a condition for someone to be in harm's way, whether it's physical, financial, emotional, they
Is
don't like
ment
that.
is mental in there?
I said that.
Did you? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, you said emotional.
Yeah, they don't like that. They don't
Mhm,
want that. But that's the other video. This is straight up I'm stealing your shit.
mhm,
Copyright is I'm straight up I'm stealing your shit. I'm gonna do whatever I want with it. And It literally has nothing to do with the platform itself. All right. So what did I do here? Then we heard how broken the system was, right? And it's not true. They want you to think that, but it's not true. Copyright is a legal issue. It's not a platform issue. If copyright infringement requests are created, the platform will take a light look at it. If there's a case, they usually say, there you go, go work it out. Have fun in court. YouTube, Facebook, none of them are the judge. They're just following DMCA law, period. End of story. I don't know anybody high up at YouTube. I don't even know. I think it's in California. I just read the rules, folks. They don't decide who's right. They don't care. They just enforce a process. It's that simple. Ooh. So I'll put this out there, but basically, step one, a complaint's filed, then a copyright strike gets sent out. The content creator gets it. Now they have an option. Do I just take this down and we shake hands, or do I counter this? If they counter it, you're going to court. Then the complainant has 10 to 14 days to respond. Now, going to court is scary, right? And there's a couple different ways. So if you don't respond to the counter, no action happens, video stays up, whole nine. Otherwise, you have to file a lawsuit. And that's exactly when YouTube's like, I'm out. I'm out. Like, this is on you. Come back with papers. It's not them siding with anybody. It's not them being, this guy's got rich friends. None of that shit. This is following a process. There's two ways you can do it. CCB is the Copyright Claims Board, and then there's the federal court, right? CCB is basically like small claims court for copyright infringement. Costs like, I think, $40 or $60. Then it's like another 40. It's about 100 at the end of the day. So if you file a copyright strike, someone counters, and then you file your lawsuit, you got to put up the money. Yeah, it's $40. So you put the $40 in. It's for minor infringements. It's not for the big deals. Like, this isn't you taking Pepsi's logo and creating a whole line of merch around it. You got to prove clear ownership, the whole nine. It's like, it's going to court, people. There's a $30,000 max penalty, right? This is probably why a lot of people don't counter, because they don't want to take the chance. They usually limit it like 10 to 15 per violation, and you can hit them with, if you hit them with 2 copyright strikes, you could walk out of the CCB with 30 grand in your pocket.
And is anything really, like, is that hill really the hill you want to die on? I mean, it's
right.
Yeah.
Right. So now we're playing big boy games. Now, the caveat here is the defendant can opt out. They can be like, yeah, fuck it. I'm not doing this. I can't do it. Well, then you have to take them to federal court. That's scary.
You have to, because once it's set into motion, it can't be stopped.
If you want it to continue, yeah. You have to do it. You have to bring them. So once it's started, it can stop. If they opt out and you drop it, it's over. Their video goes back up, the whole nine. Otherwise, you take them to federal court, right? And that's for the bigger cases like willful harassment, repeat infringers, monetized attacks, right? And I can promise you, the lawyers for this part are not cheap. But now you're looking at $150,000 per work, right? You could literally bankrupt somebody pretty quickly on just one copyright infringement. So, key moves here, like if you're being strategic about this, you start with CCB. If they opt out, then you take them, you hit them hard. So scalpel, CCB, if you want precision, you just want a video down. If you want to get money out of them, right? Keep tracing my pictures. I'll scalpel you. Well, and it's like $3 to $5 grand. Easy. Not hard to prove. If you want to sledgehammer them, you take them to federal court, which is probably where most belong, right? It's crazy. Now this all goes into other things because now, right? And if it's at this level, now you've got probably some civil complaints, probably a criminal complaint or two that you can work with as well. Nobody wants to be spending their days and nights in court. I don't.
Well, and again, the money situation, like you said, this is the real world, and this is where,
Well, yeah, it is.
lives do truly, and for what? Like
For what?
for what? I think this is where um it's hard to wrap your head around. It is for me, but
It's a big deal, right? But nobody sits and thinks, well, wow, one Facebook post, one YouTube video, one Reddit comment could land me in court
mm,
and could cost me 30
no.
to $150,000.
And think about this. If let's just say social media platforms are brand new, and as you're signing up, you're putting in your email, right? You're like, I'm going to create a profile. Now, an AI generated lawyer comes up and says, and here are your responsibilities. If you cross the line in any way, you can go to federal court. How many people would actually be on here, do you think?
Fuck, I don't know.
Like, we suddenly have a lot of reality stars, right? Everybody
Yeah.
suddenly has these big voices, and they're going to be the next one. And so, if we all knew what came with social media platforms legally, wouldn't be as fun, would it?
Yeah. No, and nobody looks into it until it's too late, right? And then you find out. So, and there have been comments on some of the YouTube, and I've left them up, and I'm sure I'll get some on here. People asked if I had, filed different complaints, which is, you really don't have to be all that smart to figure out that I did or didn't. The difference between me and other people is I don't really talk about strategic shit that's going on in the background. And there may be more. So
Yes, they do, Angelina.
yeah,
And right, Jason reminds me of the comedian who is being sued by the Lion King composer for $27 million for making fun of his song. I mean, it's,
really.
look, all you need is somebody to say, like, and again, it's, is the legacy you want to leave behind. Some of these content creators that we see out there have done some really good work, right?
Yeah, amazing.
One personal conflict can turn all their amazing work upside down. And you have to ask yourself, like, is it truly worth getting into personal conflicts on a platform when really we could all just be adults and be like, you got to move on.
That's all, right? So the whole idea is if you're out there creating any kind of content, running a business, living your life, know that all of your photos, all of your text, any text that you post, any post that you make on Facebook or anywhere else, is copyrighted. It just is. You got to know that again, and this is important. So if anybody ever tries to use your own stuff against you, you can protect yourself. If they take your stuff and steal it, well, you can protect yourself.
Well, you're saying so if we're in a you, me, Angelina, and Jason are in a text, if they're sharing a conversation publicly and they didn't come to you,
each piece of that conversation belongs to its creator.
But so if the person even if they're in the conversation, shared your piece without saying anything, they've violated a copyright.
Correct.
Okay.
Can you explain that not only the person who is targeted can file a complaint? What kind of complaint, Angelina? I'm not sure I follow that. So if you're running a business, especially, right, you can upload, I think it's 5 photos for like $60, up to 5 or 8. I can't remember what the numbers are. Right here at the Copyright Office Registration Center. That's then, so now that's the other thing. If you don't have registered images and they're used, your cap's a bit lower. If you're Images are registered. This is a great way for the government to make money, by the way. And they're
Always.
registered, and you file a copyright complaint, you get more money.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see here infringement claim right there on the main landing page. Do it. It's worth a 40, $50. If you create a piece of equipment, if you create a cool program, and you have photos and imagery attached to it, copyright it. You know, do it, but do the batch because it's single or up to like 8 or 9 or whatever the number is. You can look it up. And it's the same price. So why pay multiple times? But protect yourselves, protect your identity, protect your brand. There's a lot to it. I still don't. I don't know if we lost Angelina.
Well, no, I'm sure it's there's that weird delay, so she could be typing out. Yeah, it's all very interesting because again, I think we get onto something like a social media platform. Yeah, there's terms of service, but it is strategically placed, so you're not going to, because they know. It's like when you sign up for something and they're like free month, and then you forget that you signed up, and then now your credit card is tagged every month.
Yeah,
I mean, they're banking on that. Yeah.
Well, during this show, I got a notification that my bill was paid.
Yeah. So like, they're sort of banking on that, right? So we all jump onto something, and I think we all have a tendency to misinterpret certain laws, and claiming, well, we have this right. Well, you do have a right, but so do other people. Your right doesn't invalidate another person's right. And I think this is just where we could, all take a moment and understand, like, what are we using these platforms for? How can we protect ourselves in protecting our friends? Again, we have many friends who are content creators. We have friends who go out there and they're sharing their lives. And again, we've always said, you don't have to like us, that we're okay with. But also there is a way to handle your dislike.
Well, there is, right? And you shouldn't do it in a way to as a retaliatory piece, right? It should be about, like, for me, it's never been about silencing anybody. It's about setting boundaries and having actual protocols and not being a 100% douche.
Because we would want that for them as well. If
I want it for everybody.
Yeah.
This video is not, again, I know it sounds like it, but the only thing I can speak to are the things that have been done to me.
It's a lived experience. I mean, you are using examples because you lived them.
Yeah, I lived them, and you've lived them. And you have had zero to do with a lot of it, and there we are. So what Angelina was saying is, but that's normally around like the harassment piece, right? She said people file complaints when they've seen someone make a video about me and YouTube took action. Yeah, you know what, Angelina, there will be a whole different video on that. That wouldn't be a copyright complaint. Like there are certain complaints that you can file on any piece of content that are very specific to you, right? That would be a privacy complaint or a copyright violation. Like Sarah couldn't, well, she could forget on it, but she couldn't file a copyright violation on, my baby pictures being used. Like, she doesn't own that original piece. Yeah, no, it's okay, Angelina. I'm gonna space this thing out because I knew, and that's why I started with this one. I know how complicated this is, but the other pieces are sort of branches of the same thing, even though different violations. They do help build the bigger case, but the intent of the series isn't say go out there and kick people's asses. It's for you to protect yourself, and maybe for you to think about, if you're going to start creating content, what you should and shouldn't be doing moving forward. Or if you are creating content, maybe think about the things you should and shouldn't be doing moving forward.
Well, or at least have yourself knowledge, armed with knowledge. So if somebody does come to you, your response is well informed and not one that says, well, I have the right. You might not have the rights you think you do to somebody else's personal being and public being. And I think this is where, I think back to all the, what did I just say the other day? I feel like social media platforms have become sort of the National Enquirer. It's so sensationalized, and it's so, some of the stuff is so out of this world. And it's like, and what are we really being productive on? And I agree, with Jason's point. We start talking about AI now we just have AI influencers. They're not even actual people. They're just AI generated. And and this is where it's going to start getting really muddy, I think.
It's muddy and messy and ugly. But there's still a foundation and a core that if you land, squarely on your feet, and you work smartly and act smartly, you can survive it. And you just need to know it's there. And there are some that don't want you to think that, right? They just don't, because that's, what gives them the leeway to at least think and believe or claim at least that they have every right to do the things they do. Even up in the celebrity realm, right? Fair use is less enforced, but it still applies. It may be harder to enforce. So, they there's a picture of, I don't know, Will Smith, and that gets pushed around because there's promotional photos and news photos, like hard, unless the original owner files that complaint, there's really not a whole hell of a lot Will can do. Right. And that's where the celebrity aspect starts getting strange. But it doesn't mean they couldn't file a copyright infringement. It just means the owner of that content. So it's less enforced on the platform because it's harder to prove, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's it in a nutshell. Like this could be 3 hours and we could go so deep into it. But no, that as a creator, you have responsibilities. When I say creator, that doesn't mean you have to have a YouTube channel. You're a creator when you're on here on Facebook or YouTube or any platform creating things, right? I am not talking about just video stuff. No matter where you are, if it's a US based company, you're living and playing with US based rules. It's just what it is. Sorry. It's in the terms of service. Read it. You should. And if you find yourself, a victim of some stupid shit, then also know that there are ways to help. There are. You're not helpless. So, and some of those things will come on, in the later series, because that's really more around the privacy complaints and harassment and things like that. So we'll see how this one fares. I'm sure I'll get shit for it, but whatever.
Well, I mean, I think in the end, you kept it, you kept it factual. You showed the facts. And yes, Laura, I have heard of gang stalking, and I am sad to hear that is something you're experiencing. But I think whether people like it or not, again, I think we just take for granted that we have these, the doors open and we're like, social media, yay. And then we just forget. You can't. It's kind of like when, we go to other countries and, we think because we can smoke pot all over the, USA, that we can just be smoking pot over in other countries, and then you land in jail and you're like, wait a minute. Well, no matter what, right? There's always rules and laws to follow here. And, again, and maybe because social media is mostly working with people we don't really know, so it makes it a little easier to not be as kind. I think that's a little strange to me,
Oh, yeah,
but
that's a whole different show. Yeah. That's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah. So, look,
I just don't know if any content is worth any trip to federal court.
oh no. Unless you're winning the money. Yeah.
Well, okay, but even then, let's be honest.
No, I know.
There's no amount of money that makes mental anguish or, uh, physical health issues or anything that happens due to a constant beatdown.
You
I think this is why when you do see families go out and sue on behalf of their children who have taken their lives due
know,
to bullying, um, nobody wants the money. They want their loved one,
yeah.
and that's what I think is. And again, I would say this to people that haven't always or have yet to show me kindness, right? I don't know them, but they haven't showed me kindness. I wouldn't want to see them in the same spot. Um, so, I think that's really this is important information for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we have sat and watched some people very, very confidently claim that they were doing everything right. And blah, well, don't listen to your friends, especially if they're not in this country when you're dealing with US copyright laws.
Mm.
It's probably one of the first big mistakes. And in the end, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what I talk about. But
Do you think this has changed anything for you personally, and how you will move forward with any kind of anything on social media?
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I'm just curious. I mean, I think this has opened my eyes to a lot of things. I mean, in a span of 4 years, there's been a lot of amazing lessons that sort of showed
Oh
themselves
yeah,
and,
God, yeah,
know.
tons. But
Mhm,
yeah, listen, you just got to be smart. You got to kind of know the battlefield you're on, right? And know the rules, the lay of the land, and um,
mhm.
you know, like you said, there is nothing worth ending up in front of a judge about, at least that I can think of. Uh, that happens
Mhm.
here on social media. So yeah,
Yeah, I don't
maybe
know.
some other places. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I think, I hope you guys found this to be useful information. All of this is easily, to be honest with you, yes, it took Rob a lot of research. I know you spent some time on this. You worked with some people, and um, I think in the end, you have a better understanding, and how to handle situations that just don't need to be out there.
No.
Um,
And I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. This is Rob's observations and understanding
mhm.
based on a whole bunch of things. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And I never put these up. So yeah. Public figures, bone bangs. I got some cool shit here, kids. But if you ever have questions or ever need it, um, advice, you know how to find me.
Mhm.
Thanks, Angelina. Thank you, IC, Laura,
Steven.
Steven. Yeah, I'm fucking tired.
Yeah, well, it's a lot. It takes a lot out. So, all right. Well, I think we're gonna tap out on shows here for the rest of the week. We've hit our quota, folks.
Yeah, I'm done. I got a
Yeah.
busy couple days ahead of me, so
Yeah, we've got things to
bro.
do. So, well, thank you for all that information. Like he did mention, there are a couple more in this series that he will
We'll see.
have. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we don't have our normal 20, but it's Thursday night and we've been on 3 times. But I'm sure this will get some views.
Yeah. Well, it's also better when you watch it after it's been on, and then nobody can see if you're on.
Oh, it's one of those.
So it could be one of those. I don't know.
I would have open conversations. I don't understand why everybody's afraid to talk, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know. But with that, it is Thursday. It is an Easter weekend. If you are celebrating Easter, happy Easter to all of you. If you're not, I hope you have a very happy and comfortable and peaceful weekend. Some people it's a long weekend, some people it's not. But we hope you enjoy it no matter what. And with that, I guess we're going to allow everyone to go back. It is now 9:20. Everybody enjoy your evening and keep yourself safe, folks. Learn those rules, read those terms of service, and be responsible on social media because you don't know.
Read them on the dump when you're taking a dump.
Just read them. It doesn't matter when you do.
Have Google read it to you. They'll do that too.
So with that, folks, you know what we say here on Get Haunted and Paranormally Blind. We see you. We do. We certainly appreciate you, and we love you. Thank you for being the good in the community. Go out there, be good citizens, and we will check you later.